Hello everybody, welcome back to Rob's Gaming Table. I'm Rob, and we're here to talk about the latest news in KeyForge. Hello everybody, hello. It's only been like 3-ish years since we posted anything about KeyForge on the channel. It's just been a little while, all right? A few things have happened in the past of KeyForge. We'll talk about those. We'll talk about, reminisce a little bit. We'll discuss the news for KeyForge. Thank you for joining live. Thank you for joining in the future. If you're here in the future, obviously you're not in the live chat to discuss, but feel free in the comments down below to drop any knowledge or thoughts or anything. I'd love to hear about your thoughts on KeyForge, what you think will happen. We're going to speculate a little bit. We're going to discuss, go through all the news. Yeah, we'll get you up to date on what's going on with KeyForge, at least from what we know based on the companies involved and what they've announced so far. But hello everybody, hello. Let's see here. So Circado's here, says have a ton of decks and played a bunch with a friend and of tournaments when it came out. Fire. Played up until the last cycle they released. Yeah, I'm gonna talk a little bit about my history with KeyForge for those that are new to the channel. In the last few thousand subscribers we got since we've made any KeyForge content. Basically my background in card games, I guess, quickly. I got into the modern tabletop gaming hobby back in 2012-ish. I learned about it, started buying some stuff. Game of Thrones, the living card game at the time, was in its first edition. becoming a living card game. Right away, I started buying cards, building decks, going to tournaments, even major tournaments. Like literally my second tournament ever was like a Gen Con tournament, which was nuts, but fun. I got hooked on that whole idea of competitive card games based on Game of Thrones, the living card game. Obviously got into the second edition when that came out, played Warhammer Conquest, casually played Netrunner, played competitive Legend of the Five Rings, or L5R, when FFG purchased it, because I don't really like to buy products from AEG, not the best quality. Yeah, shots fired. Also played, what else? There were other card games in there somewhere. Maybe not, I don't know. But anyways, KeyForge came along, and myself, I'm not really a deck builder. I usually like work with other people to build decks, or net deck, test, tweak, you know, trial and error. But a basic deck from scratch, I can probably count the times I've done that on one hand. That's just not my skill set. It's not something I enjoy spending lots of time doing. Usually, I prefer playing, I prefer practicing, I prefer preparing for competition. But I know part of collectible card games is putting together your own deck, buying lots of cards, lots of, you know, tools to build your deck with. Super fun. People love that, but that's just not the part of the games that I love. So when Fantasy Flight Games partnered with Richard Garfield back in 2018 and announced it at Gen Con of 2018 that they were partnering to make a unique deck game. So if you don't know what KeyForge is, they use some kind of algorithm to make unique names, unique logos on the card backs, and unique deck lists, like complete decks that all work together, some better than others. And then they send those off to the printers. So every single pack of a KeyForge deck, so I have a couple unopened right here. For example, these are from the first two sets. They were coming out with a few sets. We'll read an article describing the history, I guess, but from my memory. So they released a few sets. So these decks are completely unique. Like this deck in here has 100% different cards than any other KeyForge deck out there. And this deck has 100% completely different mix of cards, a different name, a different symbol, all inside here, which is super neat. They released a whole bunch of different products, starter sets, you know, premium starter decks, all this kind of stuff that come with tokens and things. But it was like a collectible card game, but you weren't collecting cards, you were collecting decks. So decks, you know, had certain power levels, certain factions had, you know, better cards in certain builds. And there's a good secondary market for it where people were selling decks, trading decks. You know, it is basically like you're not opening a booster pack of random cards, you're opening like a booster deck. So you like open a deck at a tournament, you know, show up for a sealed tournament and you get your deck, crack it open. They had tons of cool sealed tournaments where you're like, get 3 decks. You know, open them up right before the tournament, look through them, choose one to take, you know, through the tournament. Once you lose with that deck's eliminated, you know, select your second one. I played in a whole bunch of different tournaments at Origins, Gen Con, various local game stores, at different hotels in around Toronto and stuff, when they were doing like, you know, like regionals and tournaments like that. I went to like launch events and stuff. It was fun. Definitely fun. Filmed a lot of tournament videos on the channel. If you just go to my channel and search KeyForge, you search KeyForge in here, you'll see like we did lots of tournament videos on the channel in the past, you know, going to vault tours and look like sealed tours at different game stores and, you know, regional tournaments, and there's Origins, Gen Con. Yeah, like we did deck unboxings. Mel and I played casually on the channel against each other. I met lots of awesome people playing this game. But I fell in love with KeyForge. It actually pulled me away from like every other collectible competitive game that I was playing, and I went exclusively playing KeyForge. And I got hooked on it because the idea I could just buy a deck, and everyone loves the whole idea of a booster pack. You know, it's like gambling. You're just opening, hoping for the next hit. You know, it's like very addictive. And now you're opening decks, and the deck's built. I don't have to open a bunch of junk cards, kind of like booster packs that I just kind of throw away, and I'm digging for that one rare card I need for my deck. Or you can go buy singles, of course, for collectible card games. But with this, it's cool. You just walk into a store and you can be like, yeah, I want to learn KeyForge. Okay, buy a deck over there. There's a dude over there playing. You go sit with him. And I did that. I had people, we were getting ready for a tournament in 30 minutes. And we had people walk in saying they were interested to play in the tournament. They buy a deck, sit down, we crack it open. I literally teach them the game right before the tournament, and they're in the tournament playing. Like, you know, it's fun. It's just like so quick. From purchase to playing is like so fast, right? You can get starter decks for other games, right? You can buy a Magic the Gathering starter set, a Pokemon starter set. But for KeyForge, you could just buy any deck, and it could be like the world-winning tournament deck. You know what I mean? It could be like really highly ranked. It could also be kind of a dud that's harder to pilot, and you got to figure out. But the whole idea of KeyForge was designed from Richard Garfield, saying like he originally wanted Magic to be that way, but what he learned when the internet came out after, which was in the future, he didn't predict that, people were able to solve sets really fast and find the meta. But he liked the idea of going into a jungle. He kind of described it when they announced it was, he designed it like he loved the idea of Magic originally, where it's like, here's all these cards we designed, throw you in a jungle, you know, in a tournament or whatever, and here's your tools, build a deck, figure it out, and make it work. But then, of course, you know, internet gets out there, they build decks, people figure out the meta. The hive mind kind of ruined that theory. And with KeyForge a little bit too, people started to solve which factions you want to have paired together, which cards you need in that faction, how much amber generation it did in the deck and stuff like that. There's websites that score KeyForge decks and rank them and stuff. It's pretty crazy. But yeah, it was just a unique deck game. It was kind of cool to crack open a deck and play it, and then also collect decks to choose to bring to tournaments and, you know, try to win championships and stuff. Really fun, really fun. KeyForge is really cool. I got hooked, but then for me, I basically stopped playing at tournaments when I started doing YouTube full time. So right when I quit my job, I had a whole bunch in savings. I was like, I'm gonna do this YouTube thing full time. I'm gonna try to still do KeyForge a little casual. I had a bunch of decks, whatever, maybe just play at home. You know, I was really trying to tighten the belt, save some money, not spend much until I see if I could grow the YouTube channel or go back to work, you know, at my existing job or previous jobs or industry or whatever. So I said, okay, I'm gonna take a break from the tournament scene, you know, not showing up every week, you know, paying to play in a tournament for prizes and buying decks and all that stuff. I had to put KeyForge kind of on hold for that reason. Until I could, you know, try to build up the channel to be able to go to conventions again and play in tournaments again and stuff like that. And then like 6-9 months later, COVID happened, the pandemic hit and just kind of crushed KeyForge. I was still watching KeyForge tournaments. I was still excited about new sets coming out. And they announced like a Vault Warrior Vault Tour series, whatever it was called, that had like, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars of cash on the line and all this kind of stuff. They were going to come out with this serious competitive tournament. KeyForge was doing amazing for FFG, Fantasy Flight Games, the publisher. They were like really, really gung-ho about it. It was really making the company do well. And yeah, then COVID hit. And this was a game that you could only really play in person unless you're using like a fan website or whatever. So all the major tournaments and stuff were in-person physical play. And then stores had like, you know, weekly meetups and all that stuff. And my scene around my place was pretty good. I also traveled to other metas and scenes, and they were like very popular. KeyForge was doing great, and then COVID smacked it right down. And then after COVID smacked it, at around the same time, Fantasy Flight Games supposedly, this is not 100% confirmed, but rumor is that Fantasy Flight Games, the developer who had the software to create these decks, their algorithm to print decks, they got hit with that virus. There was a virus going around for a couple of years. That basically would take over your system. I remember when I worked in IT, it was a threat. It was a thing we learned about. I heard all about it at a IT security conference. But it's a virus that basically takes over your system. So someone clicked on something, and it encrypts your whole hard drive, like encrypts it. So you can't access your files, and it can spread across the network and encrypt like crazy. So obviously the computer that they had the algorithm on, and their backup computers or their databases, whatever, all got encrypted, and they lost everything. You can tell they probably lost more than just their KeyForge algorithm, because we know when they're remaking Lord of the Rings, the re-release stuff, they're putting, there's like typos and errata on cards that are like 10 years old. So you know they had to like recreate a lot of stuff, and I think they probably lost a lot for all their card games, which is maybe why we're not seeing new stuff either, right? And yeah, so it crushed them. They weren't able to make new decks. They announced the game was done, that they were putting it on hold. They would try to relaunch it later after they redesigned their whole algorithm, got it back up. Fantasy Flight Games was going to create an app finally, because that game should have had an app from the beginning, because you can scan your decks in. There's a QR code on the deck. You can scan it into a website, collect your decks, rank your decks. When you play in tournaments, you scan your deck in, and any kind of wins or amber and stuff you earn, you could get keys that you could spend at tournaments to earn prizes. So all this stuff was digitally tracked with your deck, but you couldn't scan your deck and like play it online officially, which was so silly. which would have made it get through COVID, I think, and survived, except for that algorithm, the virus, the encryption virus killing the algorithm. And that was like 9 months ago-ish. They announced it was going to come back, I think. I think it was last Gen Con. They announced it in their in-flight report that KeyForge is coming back. Don't worry, we're working on it. And then that was it. And then they went kind of dark. And then today we're going to touch on all the news that's come out over the last month, and where KeyForge is at now, because we've gotten lots of updates. So that's the play. Successful Geek says, it blew my mind that they didn't have the KeyForge algorithm in a private GitHub or something. Yeah, no kidding. I was blown away by it. It was crazy. I wonder how much money they lost on like products they were working on. Like, think about like all their card games. Like, they might have had a new card game or a new board game they were working on, lost everything digitally they were working on for it. Imagine that. Like, not just the algorithm, you can tell they lost other stuff and they've had to go collect data on other websites to find card text and stuff like that. You can tell. You know, it set that company back big time, which is crazy. They probably had some stuff backed up off-site or whatever, but I can't believe that bread and butter for like basically their most successful cash cow, their most successful cash cow, they didn't have it, you know, backed up. So when a virus came and encrypted everything, they couldn't just roll back, you know. But they're just a small company, you know, they're owned by Asmodee at the time. But they really are just a small little publisher in St. Paul, Minnesota, right? Like, board gaming is not, you know, that big in you know, the modern hobby, that these companies are that huge that they probably like didn't think their budget for like IT was really that important. But they probably learned from that. And yeah, so interesting. So that's the background of KeyForge for me. That's the background that I know of KeyForge up until like the last month. And that's what we're going to talk about in today's stream quickly, as quick as we can. And then we'll discuss with you guys your thoughts on it, the future of KeyForge, what we're looking for. But we have news on when KeyForge could come back, the status of the digital app, who is the current publisher now of KeyForge, and information about what's happening at Gen Con related to KeyForge. And I think that's it. A little bit about the new set too, but I'm not really worried about the new set until we actually are for sure going to get a new set, and they say we will, but I'll believe it when it gets a little closer to it, right? Who knows? Who knows what can happen, right? I thought KeyForge was going to be back by now, and now things have happened where it's even delayed even more. So who knows? Who knows? Vault Boy says, a fan of the game recreated the algorithm in a week. All hail Sky Jedi. That's cool. Yeah, I mean, I've always talked about it with other games, but what fans do, like even on BoardGameGeek.com for the board gaming world, like when you see a company put out like a rule book or an app or something, or even a board game rule set, and just to see what the fan community does, where they all of a sudden create like custom cards, custom apps, custom scenarios, reference sheets, better rule books, like, you know, better rule sets. Like, it's crazy what the community does, and I love it. Or you know, KeyForge comes out and FFG's like, yeah, you can only play in stores, and people are like, yeah, right, watch me make a web app where you can scan your deck in and we can play tournaments online. Watch this, hold my beer, and the community just boom, in 10 minutes, boom, we have digital online. But the company tells us, no, sorry, we can't do it, it's going to take years, you know. And it's like, what? Who do you got working there? Like, what like, cut out the investors, man. Let's get some real stuff done. But it all comes down to profits, right? Money drives it, especially public companies and stuff with big investors. It's like, okay, how much time does that take? How much profit can we make? Nah, it's not enough. Let's do something else, you know? Like, oh, the game might die. That's okay. We'll make another one. A whole bunch of people will buy it. No problem. Like, we'll just spend our time on that. We make more profit making new games than we do supporting old ones. That's what I think happens a lot. But yeah. So let's go through the articles. Let's talk about KeyForge. So I guess first, this is the website for Ghost Galaxy. Ghost Galaxy From what I understand, we can probably read an article explaining them more, but I've linked the website for this down below. Ghost Galaxy is a game development studio. I can probably just click somewhere and read about that on the website. Ghost Galaxy is a new tabletop game publisher dedicated to combining the camaraderie and immediacy, is that right? Immediacy of traditional tabletop games with the power of smartphones, tablets, and other digital devices. We're creating fun, innovative games for a new digital age. So Ghost Galaxy is a publishing company for board games that is a subsidiary of, what's the head company called again? Strange Stars LLC, okay? Strange Stars LLC is something where Christian T. Peterson, the original founder of Fantasy Flight Games back in the late 90s, he took all his money after selling Fantasy Flight Games to Asmodee North America, and all the money he got in his, retirement package or sell-off of the business, whatever he did to get out, he basically said, okay, I'm done with Fantasy Flight Games. I'm done running Asmodee North America. Pay me out or sell my shares, whatever he did. He got a big fat stack of cash. And that big fat stack of cash, he said, I'm going to start a business and I'm going to have a bunch of sub businesses owned by that business. And he was just going to invest in cool technology things. Okay, that's what originally he was doing. Originally investing in technology kind of stuff. I don't know what it was. He was trying to prepare for the future, build some things, have a legacy. But he couldn't get away from tabletop gaming. And I guarantee he was missing it. And he was sitting there and he's like, man, I miss tabletop gaming. So Christian T. Peterson also bought he bought this off of a franchisee, I believe, that at the FFG Fantasy Flight Games headquarters, aka Asmodee North America's headquarters, aka Z-Man Games headquarters, there is a little restaurant slash gaming store slash play area, tournament rooms, offices, all this stuff. I've been there before for Worlds tournaments and stuff. It was called the Fantasy Flight Games Event Center. Okay. You could go there, you see Fantasy Flight employees walking around, you play tournaments, you can buy any game from any publisher there, you can see the pictures. But Christian T. Peterson decided he was going to buy this from Asmodee or the owner of it. I don't know who exactly owned it, but anyways, it had Fantasy Flight all over the place. So they had some say in it. But he bought this store from them and renamed it the Game Center with a Z or Z. And now runs that. He also supposedly bought a bunch of printers from Fantasy Flight Games that used to do print-on-demand stuff. Thank you for subscribing earlier. Vault Boy, thank you for the super chat. Sorry. Thank you for the super chat, Vault Boy. Says, here's to our future travel fund. Or here's to your future travel fund. Keep us forgers on camera. I'm going to try. We'll see. We'll see how it works. There was a subscriber. Sorry, Nathan Carter. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you, guys. Thank you. I think I'm losing my voice. So the Game Center was bought by Christian T. Peterson, and he also supposedly bought the print-on-demand stuff that they used to make, like, I think playmats and cards and OP kits and stuff like that. I don't know. He invested and bought that all from Fantasy Flight Games, and I think that is part of related to Ghost Galaxy and its publishing company. Now they have a way to print their prototypes or print their games in small amounts to then sell, locally and whatever. So he owns this game store that's attached to FFG's like headquarters. Supposedly former employees have gone and left Fantasy Flight Games to work for him. And where was it? In the shop. If a little side note, if you're looking for any of the old print-on-demand Fantasy Flight Game stuff, like the Lord of the Rings Nightmare decks you see on the screen, these custom playmats that were for organized play kits, and Arkham Horror, like parallel investigators and stuff like that. You can buy it all from the Game Center, but it's shipping from like a little store in Minnesota, and the shipping can get pretty crazy international. But if you're looking for that stuff, he has the his company has the ability to print Fantasy Flight Games and Asmodee products on demand using the technology that he bought from Fantasy Flight Games, is my understanding. I don't know 100% all the deals behind that, but that's supposedly what's been happening from a consumer point of view. That's what I'm seeing. So there you go. So he owns this Game Center. Then he announced Ghost Galaxy, which Ghost Galaxy is a group of tabletop developers trying to make tabletop games and digital mesh together, right? But around the same time I learned about Ghost Galaxy, we also learned that Ghost Galaxy is now the new publisher and owner of everything KeyForge. So they bought the stuff from Fantasy Flight Games, which if we go to the news, we can go through the articles here. I think this article is probably a good one to start with. So this is a little history of KeyForge. I don't know if we can make a little zoom in happen here to make it bigger on the screen for you guys. So this is the first news I saw was, we're excited to provide you with news about KeyForge and our thoughts on its future. First, we hope you'll forgive us for bringing you along for a stroll into the recent past. So I've already described kind of the past that I remember from KeyForge. I could be wrong, but we'll get some stuff in here for those that want to know about KeyForge and why it could be another huge success, because it was already once, very recently. Just like I said, it had some struggles with COVID and the virus that FFG got that kind of put a big hold on it. But it says when the comet that was KeyForge hit gaming orbit in fall of 2018, it seemed nothing could stop it. People are so excited for this thing. The first printing of the initial KeyForge set, Call of the Archons. Man, I probably have like $1,000 worth of Call of the Archons decks. I got kind of addicted. I have a problem, guys. I have a problem. But anyways, so yeah, the first printing of the initial KeyForge, Call of the Archons, sold out in record time, and new printings and sets were quickly put into motion. Age of Ascension arrived in early summer 2019, to be followed by Worlds Collide, Mass Mutations, and finally Dark Tidings, which, while those were coming out, like I told you, I went full-time on YouTube, didn't have the funds to spend because I had a problem. So I quickly went cold turkey, but not 100% cold turkey, because every time they came out with a new set to support my local game store, and even though I wasn't playing at tournaments and throwing tons of money into the game, I continued to buy each box, just a 2-player starter set for fun, and thought maybe I'd unbox it on the channel and play a few games with Mel that we used to love doing on the channel, and on Twitch too. We used to stream it on Twitch, blind cracking packs and playing games. Just like, let's just play a random game. Let's just open a random deck and play against each other and hang out with chat. It was fun. So I got Worlds Collide, Mass Mutation, and the Dark Tidings. I have each one. I'm not open. They're still in shrink. Still in shrink, waiting for the return of the game. But I kept buying them. Anyways, the game was beloved, and the unique deck concept was fun and novel. Soon, more than 1 million decks would be registered online, and major tournaments popped up at conventions everywhere. Yet, 2 dramatic events would extinguish KeyForge's momentum. First, the onset of COVID-19 pandemic that began in early 2000. A young game like KeyForge needs a thriving, growing community of in-person play and tournaments, all of which suddenly were lost to pandemic, lockdowns, and other restrictions. The world was ending. Second was the excruciating loss in 2021 of the software engine. Okay, it happened like a year later. Okay. That made it possible for FFG Asmodee, made it impossible for FFG and Asmodee to render new KeyForge decks. You can't print decks, if you can't produce that crack, you can't, satisfy the fiends, right? So unlike other games, KeyForge cards and decks are procedurally generated and then rendered for digital printing. The systems and algorithms needed to accomplish these tasks are complex to make, as well as the tools needed by developers and designers to make new cards for the game. During the last year with FFG Asmodee, Ghost Galaxy founder Christian T. Peterson wrote this article. Now, there's a whole article you can read. Again, this website's linked in the video description if you want to go check out these articles and click on the links and go more into depth and read. There's a whole article of Christian T. Peterson writing up how the deck is designed. It has images talking about, the process and how it came to be and stuff. Really neat. That explains many of the concepts and challenges behind creating procedurally generated games. Creating the software behind KeyForge took years to build. Then it was suddenly gone. A gray fog of uncertainty and silence rose over the Crucible, just as the real world faced its own miasma of disruption and tragedy that was COVID 2019. Concerned for KeyForge and its players, Asmodee approached Ghost Galaxy in late 2021 about acquiring the IP in the game. This was not an easy decision for Asmodee, and it was not a foregone conclusion for us. Ghost Galaxy had been quietly working on its own software suite that would power the next generation of procedurally generated card games. These buggers. Yeah, see, I guarantee, I was assuming, Christian T. Peterson got some old FFG employees who worked in the digital department and worked on the creation of KeyForge, And he was like, you know what? Let's do our own version of this. Screw these guys. And he missed gaming so much, he wanted to make his own game studio, make his own games. And yeah, that's crazy. So he was already kind of cooking up his own procedurally generated games, whether they're card games or board games or whatever, who knows, right? But he believed in the idea and wanted to do better than FFG did with it, I guess. He was maybe restricted too by his investors in that company, because now he calls all the shots, he owns the company, right? But when he sold FFG to Asmodee and the investment firms that owned Asmodee, he probably lost a lot of like creative control on things and to do crazy stuff he wanted, right? That maybe would be risky. So unfortunately, he decided I'm gonna do my own thing. But then Asmodee approached him and said, "Hey, we're trying to recreate this algorithm. It's a little more expensive and time consuming, and we don't have our employees anymore because they weren't happy and they left. They actually work for you now. Do you think you could maybe buy the game from us and kind of you can have the baggage? Sorry, we broke your beautiful game that you made and worked with Richard Garfield to come up with, but do you want it back? Do you want it back now, please?" But it was not ready, and a mature game like KeyForge was not what we had in mind for its first voyage. Also, we were not sure what the long release delay had done for the KeyForge player base. Was this complex, ambitious game viable for continued publishing? I'm not sure, actually. Yet, we could not help be impressed by the continued strong fan support for the game and by the wonderful product development that FFG has already undertaken for unreleased KeyForge projects, such as the Winds of Exchange set. That is not to speak of the gobsmacking 2.7 million registered KeyForge decks. Ultimately, we decided it was worth taking the chance. The acquisition of KeyForge closed in early June 2022, so very recently, and today we're announcing it to the world. Yay! We now enter an important period of listening to the players and the marketplace and in making a series of decisions related to the KeyForge publishing plans. Specifically, the following areas will occupy our time in the weeks ahead. They're going to be working on software engineering. So they're obviously putting together the stuff, the rendering modules required for KeyForge to live again. This work has already started, but will take a number of months to complete. Commercial release plan. So given the long hiatus of the game, we need to make some big decisions about how we intend to bring the game back to market and provide the software engine is ready. Timing and composition of releases. This includes the timing of Winds of Exchange. So they're not sure when that's coming out for sure. We'll find out a little more info about that soon. Organized play, which is a huge aspect of the game. The game does not survive without some form of organized play, whether it's in person or digital. It's got to be both, I believe, but the ability to enjoy KeyForge in person and in context of a fun competitive scene will be critical priority for us. Many felt the former organized play program was confusing and spread across too many game variants. Yes, 100%. We'll be looking into streamline and condense competitive KeyForge play. We'll also be working on transitioning into a new version of the GEM tournament software used by Asmodee to handle deck registrations and result reporting. Lots to do. Localized versions, they're saying they're just going to work on, I think, English language for now is their focus. They will try to translate some other languages, but right now they need to get off their feet, right? So they're just going to focus on English for now, see if they can get the game launched, see if it's worth investing in other languages, and they'll work with other distributors and co-publishers to do that. Deck registration and player accounts. So if you already have a KeyForgeGame.com account, they're going to transfer over. I already got an email about that saying they're going to give more information so you can add yourself to an email list. I recommend going to this website, keyforging.com, linked in the video description. Set yourself up on the mailing list, but they will email you based on your email from your Asmodee account. They're going to work with Asmodee to bring all this stuff over, so you should start getting emails. Check your spam about that. You should already have an email about it, I think. And then player communication, we'll be working to provide players with frequent communications related to our KeyForge plans, including previews of new products such as Winds of Exchange. They already posted one. Game rules, updates, and other information. We hope to create an FAQ for the KeyForge transition in the days to come. And they've already done that, actually. In conclusion, to help us with the above mentioned FAQ, or if you have any questions related to KeyForge of any kind, we request that you send us any questions, comments, or concern using our message tool located here. Be sure to check our site in the days to come, more to follow, and we'll go over the other articles. Let's see what you guys are saying. What are you guys saying in the chat? Let's see. What are you guys saying? Mark says, my very first KeyForge deck was an error and was 2 decks mashed together. The store gave me a new one. A glitch in the system. Oh, Circato, I remember these days. Circato says, I remember my first deck of Call the Archons had all the horsemen, not knowing anything about the game. That was so fun. I got a horseman deck in my first like 5 or 6 decks. When KeyForge first launched, my daughter and my wife, we were taking my daughter somewhere, like I think with her grandparents or something, and we literally mapped it out that morning. We left a couple hours early before she had to be at her grandparents, and on the way we routed like to go through all the neighboring cities and towns that had a gaming store that were launching KeyForge, and we went to each one to buy, like, they were only like restricting the amount of decks they were going to sell because it was a really hot thing, but we went around and got lanyards and pins and new decks, signed up for tournaments. But we just went to the store, got our decks, and we're like, sorry, we can't play, we gotta go. And we just went from store to store buying decks, and I got a whole bunch of decks to play on the channel. And I remember I got a horseman deck in that first like 4 or 5 decks we grabbed that day. I think we grabbed more than 4 or 5. It's like 4 or 5 each. Like Mel grabbed one, my daughter grabbed decks. We went pretty nuts just collecting decks because it was so fun. But yeah, we definitely got horsemen early, and I was like, then finding out it was like a rare thing. It was people were chasing it. People were charging big money online for horseman decks. But then we learned like the horsemen like had some decks with horsemen in it weren't the greatest, and some were much better. So it was fun watching the meta like figure things out and deck values change and people start hunting and stuff. Really fun, really fun. It's also fun to sit across from your opponent. They have no idea at the beginning, and like you just like sit down, you play. They see the first horseman hit the table and they're like, whoa, what's this? I've never seen this. I've opened 20 decks. I don't know what this is. Like a super rare set of cards in the deck. It was fun. Definitely fun. All that random rare chase stuff was cool. But yeah. Billy says, excited to see the game come back and hope that it does well. So do I. I hope so too. I miss it. I do miss it. And I'm able to go back to conventions again. I'm able to go to local game stores. I can play in tournaments. Thank you for the support on Patreon and YouTube and through super chats. Because without that, I wouldn't be able to do this and then do those kind of things. So when it does launch, I want to get back into KeyForge for sure. Maybe just play casually locally. You know, I don't know if we'll be filming games again and commentating and stuff like that. I'm not sure. But even playing casually on the channel, crack some decks, play some games, discuss the game. Yeah, I would love to do that. I do miss the game. It was definitely a fun lifestyle game. Definitely my favorite. Just not being able to just buy random decks and play and discover, and it was just so fun. And the community was awesome. Yeah, it was good stuff. All right. Then we'll talk here about Ghost Galaxy acquiring. So the very foundation of the Crucible have shifted. You know, whatever. So here's Richard Garfield, the designer again of Magic the Gathering, King of Tokyo, many other games. We were looking at a bunch of his games on the list yesterday that are coming new to Gen Con this year. But he was the original, came with the original idea to Fantasy Flight Games. I've enjoyed working with Fantasy Flight and Asmodee. They really put their heart into KeyForge, did an amazing job bringing it to life. And it has been disappointing that events conspired to shut it down for so long. It is a delight to see the new game now go to a new steward, Ghost Galaxy, and in fact, the very first person I pitched it to, Christian Peterson. We have similar visions for what is possible for KeyForge, and I think we'll be able to do great things. So all of us at Ghost Galaxy are super excited today to announce that we've acquired the IP and publishing rights for the amazing KeyForge game from Asmodee. Fans should strap themselves in for the ride, for we have big plans for the game and hopefully for many new players. And it talks about Ghost Galaxy being founded by Christian Peterson, the original founder of Fantasy Flight Games. We talked about that already. He made the original deal with Richard Garfield to publish KeyForge. Alongside his senior management team, oversaw the publishing of their first release of Call the Archons. At Ghost Galaxy, Christian has been fortunate to gather a veteran group of former FFG game crafters, including the key technology team behind the original KeyForge implementation. So he stole the programmers, hired them up, found them looking for jobs, and got them. Well, that's kind of cool. So Ghost Galaxy, confirmed, full of former FFG employees and the former FFG owner. Fans may gander at this article for some initial information about the state of the game and our plans. I think that's the one we already looked at. For more information, we published blah, 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 blah. So subscribe to the mailing list. Again, you can subscribe to the mailing list on the website, keyforging.com, which I've linked down in the video description so you can get updates about the game and about the transition and stuff like that. All right, so July 7th, they released an article this month. And this is the FAQ from that first article, all the questions that came at them, they made a new FAQ page a week later. So that's a good turnaround. So there's the list of common questions. I haven't looked at this yet, so I have no idea. What are Ghost Galaxy's plans for KeyForge? Chicago says, got on a local play session, and I went to learn to play. I got hooked since. The deck was so OP, some people wanted for me to trade it to them due to being a new player. That happened to me. I was the experienced player trying to buy decks off new players. Like, we'd have new players join in tournaments. We'd do sealed tournaments. They crack open a deck. We'd have brand new players, literally their first tournament ever, and they crack open a deck that looked amazing, and I would love to have taken to Worlds or like a Gen Con, a big tournament, you know? So I'd be like offering them, like, I'll buy that deck from you. I'll trade you like 100 decks, like, you know, that kind of stuff. Like, you know, whatever it takes. If you're not going to take that deck, or let me borrow that deck, I'll take it to the tournament and bring it back, you know? I try that, but then they realize, like, oh, I have a really good thing. And then they would learn, you know, then they go online and sell it later, you know? But I would try. I would always try. But I've seen that happen a few times where someone opens a deck. I actually opened a deck in a sealed tournament at Origins, just playing casually in some kind of little sealed one, a little 4-round tournament just for some basic prizes. And one of the 3 decks I opened for that little sealed like gauntlet tournament, whatever it was called, I ended up taking a month and a half later to Gen Con and almost making the cut of like I don't remember how many hundreds of players it was. But at first I didn't think the deck was that great as I was playing it. But then a few games later, it started to click, and I actually won that little tournament that only had like 8 players in or something. But then that deck, I ended up taking it home, playtesting with it against some better decks that I had. And yeah, I ended up taking this random deck I just found at a tournament, like a blind open, and took it to Gen Con and was like crushing some people with it. Some really good players who brought their like best decks and stuff. So it's so cool that you could just randomly walk into a store. And I used to do this. We'd just travel. We'd go traveling anywhere. And I'd stock up at local game stores that would sell KeyForge, and I've never been to before, and would just come in, buy like 1 deck, and just be like, this might be the one. You know, you go to the box on the counter, and you like kind of dig, and you just pick one random, and you're like, I'll take this one. This is the winner. It used to be fun. I know people do it with like booster things in other games and stuff. It's basically like an addiction. But it was fun. Always like hunting for like a better deck to take to tournaments. And I didn't usually buy decks. I never really bought a deck for more than MSRP. I would buy sometimes opened used decks that were just cheap and fun, that were different decks than I had. But I never paid like extra for like a tournament winning deck. I always wanted to win something with a deck I just got normally, like opened or something, or a friend gave me or something, you know? That's what I was trying to do. I never actually bought a deck for more than MSRP. No one would sell me, and I didn't want to pay the prices that were online. It was too crazy. But it was fun. Oh, and you end up winning a couple tournaments with the deck. Nice, nice. Cool. So what are, let's see here. Let's see. Is there an official digital version of the game in the works? This is the most important thing to me. I think the game needs a digital version to go far in the future. If it doesn't have a way for international people or people who don't have a local gaming scene or can't travel to big conventions, if they don't have a way to scan their decks that they're buying to go play with other people online that's like official, that's bad. Like, unofficial is fine. It's cool to like have little fan run things. But man, if they start doing official stuff like Pokemon and Magic does and Hearthstone and that, where they have like official tournaments, you're winning prizes, like official prizes, official money, all that stuff, not fake money, official money. Yeah, it could be awesome. It's like perfect game for it. Like, you open your deck and it's got a QR code. Like, it just feels like it should be scanned in for more than an inventory or prize tracking in tournaments. But yeah, so the unfortunate part is FFG announced at Gen Con they were going to be working on an app and it was coming for sure. But now that they've sold the game, it says no official version is currently being developed. But I find that like hard to believe, since this is a game development company that's going to bring gaming in the future with digital and smartphones and all this stuff, right? They have to do it. But we would love to do a digital version at some point. But first, we have a lot of work to bring back the physical game back. We'll be evaluating how to get a digital game made, as other players have asked for this. Please, please, please. But I'm afraid that we don't have anything more concrete on the subject at the moment, which sucks. That sucks. So like, how long is it going to take us to get the physical game? And then what? You wait like a year to see how the game does and then decide to start making an app? Like, are we talking about an app maybe in like 5 years, 4 years, 3 years? Like what? Like that might be way too long. Like I really think they should do it now. Like get it working with old decks even, like, and what's out there at stores. Stores still have decks. There, you can still buy KeyForge in stores of older sets. And some of it's at heavily discounted rates, right? Some of it's not. But like people could still buy decks, still play tournaments. Imagine they, instead of investing in physical OP, they try to get the digital stuff going quickly and get some digital tournaments going, because anyone can join those. That might build some hype for the game as they kind of flesh out the physical part of it, which involves like renting convention space and all that kind of stuff and judges and stuff like that. I don't know. I don't know the cost of both sides, but I would think the digital version might be the more cost efficient, faster route to get things going, but maybe not. Maybe not. I could be totally wrong in that. But I think you just have a potential way larger player base if you go digital, and prioritize on that part of it for organized play reasons. But yeah, will old KeyForge decks continue to be supported and compatible with new KeyForge decks? Hell yeah. Will my existing decks be allowed in upcoming organized play events? Yes. To that extent that some decks and cards will be naturally affected over time as OP, balance, and rulings evolve. So they're going to balance the whole OP stuff. They're going to have like erratas, restricted lists, I'm sure, and all that stuff. As is the case now, individual tournaments or leagues can impose some restrictions on the type of decks allowed in the formats. We will publish official tournament rules at a later date that will explore this topic in greater detail. When will Ghost Galaxy reignite the OP scene for KeyForge? We believe that the thriving OP community and tournament structure is vital to KeyForge's future. We intend to start creating some kits and events for the game as soon as practically possible, but realistically not until the end of the year, or perhaps the beginning of 2023. For the record, we plan to host an annual KeyForge celebration and World Championship at the former FFG Game Center, or, you know, in-flight, whatever they call it. What was it I call it? FFG Game Center, I think it was called. I don't know. Now I'm confused. I'm seeing Game Center. Throw me off. It's now called the Game Center, not Fantasy Flight Games owned. Near our offices in Roseville, Minnesota, where many FFG World Champions have taken place in the past, for our other games. More information to follow. What's happening with the KeyForge Master Vault? So we'll continue to be run by Asmodee until transferred to Ghost Galaxy at some point in the next 6 months. There's a massive amount of data stored in the Master Vault, and we're working closely with Asmodee's technology team to prepare that data for safe transfer to our control. This process will take time, in part because the KeyForge data is connected to individual Asmodee.net accounts. Not only must we be careful to respect all privacy laws related to that data, but we need to build the infrastructure to host and display data for players to access. Existing Master Vault users will eventually be asked to opt in to a new KeyForge account that will be managed by Ghost Galaxy. There will be many more information about this in the months ahead, and existing Master Vault users will receive some emails on this matter as we start the transition. And I've already sent out one email, I think. Where should you register your decks? Keep registering. I'm at keyforgegame.com. What will happen to my Amber Shards and keys? Yeah, that sucks. We understand the Master Vault users have built up a lot of Amber Shards and keys. These were what, like digital currency you could save up and then use at major tournaments to buy like decks, plushies, metal keys, like metal tokens, like premium stuff for your game, premium deck boxes, Gamegenic products, all this kind of stuff. It was really cool. It like gave me the feel of like you go to an amusement park, you go to the arcade, you know, or other places that do those whole arcades that print out tickets or scan tickets onto cards. You know, you go play the basketball game, the skee ball and all that stuff. You get a whole bunch of tickets and then you go up there and you get like a, you know, you spend like $100 and you get like a, you know, a little pencil eraser for your day. It's like the worst conversion, but they had that same kind of thing. It was so cool trying to save up for sleeves or custom tokens, or I feel like they had shirts, gaming chairs that were KeyForge. They had like big, huge prizes. It was silly. It got silly, kind of like going to a carnival, basically. It was cool. Definitely cool. For those that don't know, Amber Shards and keys are, oh, I already just talked about that. So they're historically redeemed for prizes and access to special events run by FFG. Imagine those were used to get into tournaments online digitally. That would be fun too. We intend to preserve this data for each user as they transition to the new Ghost Galaxy account, but we're not yet prepared to say how Amber Shards will be used in the future. So you could get Amber Shards, I remember, for like winning tournaments, for playing in tournaments, and for just buying decks and scanning them in online. So there was just like, always you're just generating this currency, and the more you played, the more you went to tournaments. It's like a really good scene. It like drives people to keep showing up to gather that stuff and then earn things. Even if you weren't winning the tournaments and getting the top prizes, you still had a way to collect Amber Shards so you could travel to a tournament, cash those in, and then leave with some prizes and things that you've earned with it. So it was a really cool way to do it, I think. I like that concept of it. It was neat. And it was also fun when you go to a tournament and they would only have a limited amount of certain things. So you're like, you'd be signing up for side events and you're like hoping to like win to get the Amber Shards you just need to buy that like one rare thing that they only have 2 of left, you know? It was fun, definitely fun. I have some good memories. Yes, an in real life battle pass. Yes. Hey, Mark's back. Hello, Mark. Welcome back. Trumpet Gamer says, you might have answered this, but did they pay the ransom money to get the KeyForge deck creation code back? You don't actually get anything with the money from those viruses and those call center scams that encrypt your computer and post up the thing that say click here to go pay and whatever. They don't actually have the encryption code, is my understanding. They just literally encrypt your stuff. You call, you give them your credit card number, they just steal your money. You get nothing out of it. It's just a huge scam. There's like, you don't get your data back is what I understood. I never went through it to know if that's true, but from everything I was told at IT security conferences and stuff, that it was just, they just stole your stuff. They got tons of people's stuff. And once they got your credit card, you never heard from them again. And then they would sell your data to some other scammers and they would just, you know, target the same people over and over again. But yeah, you never, you know, your computer was done after that, right? But yeah. Yeah, don't negotiate with terrorists. Oh no. Zerkato went into his drug stash, aka his KeyForge deck collection. Oh no, dumpster diving for decks. Oh man. Anyways. Oh. When can you produce more KeyForge decks? Oh, sorry. How much unreleased KeyForge content is transferred from FFG to Ghost Galaxy? In addition to Winds of Exchange, which is almost ready for printing, FFG had created many concepts, mechanics, and artwork for the next set. We'll be largely following their content direction for the next 12 months. So it sounds like they have a set that's done, just needs to fix the algorithm to print decks. Then they have a set where they already have the mechanics, some card design probably, all the art done. So they just have to kind of put that together, play tests, come up with their algorithm to support that. And so it sounds like they have the next 2 sets kind of covered. And if they say it's for the next 12 months, we should see 2 new sets within the next year. That's what I get from that, right? At least that's the plan. But obviously there's a lot of things that can go wrong in there. When can you produce more KeyForge decks? Our software engineers are busy creating the software needed for KeyForge decks to be procedurally generated, rendered, and in position for production. It is hard to have a precise timeline, but we hope to have this complete by the end of 2022. They'll start printing decks around the end of the year, they think. But that means that they just start printing them around the end of the year, maybe a little delay, add a couple months. Also, they have to, when they send the decks to the manufacturer, then they got to ship, you know, to North America and other places, right? And then, so I'm probably going to say we'll probably see it based on these kind of numbers, and we'll see more information in a bit. But I have the feeling we're talking like April, May, June, maybe of 2023 before we actually start buying decks, probably, but maybe they're quicker. I don't know. They already have the next set done. Like, I don't know. Where will the new KeyForge decks be produced? We plan to produce most decks in the US. Oh, I should have kept reading. With our sister company, Artiforge. So Artiforge, I think, is the printing on demand stuff that they bought from Asmodee and FFG. I think they're just going to use those same machines that print on demand stuff. The better quality on demand stuff, I think, that they did for all their other LCGs, their prize support kits and all that stuff. And the stuff that they print and sell from the Game Center right now. And you can probably find reviews online of people who've bought stuff from the Game Center, like Lord of the Rings Nightmare decks and Arkham Horror, parallel investigator decks and those other investigators that came in the novels and stuff. They sell all that stuff print on demand from Christian T. Peterson's company Artforge through the game Zenter. So they're going to use that to start printing decks, which probably won't be like a large amount. They'll probably keep it pretty low key, maybe. I don't know. But they specialize in digital printing and has the equipment machines identical to those used for prior KeyForge releases. Select products such as box starter sets, for example, will likely be produced in whole or in part in China. So they'll be printing the one-off decks, but some products like box starter sets will come from China. Okay, interesting. Interesting. So they might do like a print wave in-house just to get some stuff at tournaments, you know, or get some stores to run some events with, you know, like a pre-release with that stuff. And then they'll slowly have stuff come from China later. That's interesting. That's interesting. Okay, interesting. So they have a little more control on when they can get decks ready, which is neat. And who is the new KeyForge design team? Fortunately, FFG created a good amount of new content for the KeyForge sets. This allows us the luxury of time to recruit a great development team during the latter part of this year. In case this concerns you, please know that the principals behind Ghost Galaxy have been putting together a tabletop game design team for decades, and we're confident that we'll gather an excellent group of people for KeyForge. Until that new team arrives, our veteran hands will guide the game through its next few sets. So they're going to hire some designers to run this game going forward. That's cool. They're still building up their company. I'm a retailer with an active KeyForge community. Will I still be buying KeyForge product through Asmodee, or will I buy from Ghost Galaxy? Ghost Galaxy will be using Asmodee as their wholesale distribution partner. Retailers should contact a regular Asmodee sales rep about restocking existing KeyForge products. So same channels are there. So they'll get the same emails, you know, the same every time they're ordering Asmodee products, you know, they'll see that new KeyForge sets are out. So, you know, that's kind of cool. It's not like they have to like partner up with a brand new company that's trying to like, please, sir, will you buy KeyForge from us? And they're like, man, KeyForge failed once already. We've never heard of you. We're not buying your game. At least it's still through Asmodee, right? Which is kind of cool. Will the KeyForge setting for Edge Studios Genesis RPG continue? Sure. I don't care about that, but that's neat. So they have existing content will continue to be available from Edge and Asmodee. We have already told Edge Studio that we'd be happy to see them publish more content for the setting. Whether or not they do is up to them, which is probably no. They'll probably want to support their own in-house products and stuff. And Arcanite, will they continue making books and fiction and stuff? But they don't know. They're not sure. But they'll continue publishing the existing stuff, so you can probably still go buy KeyForge RPG and KeyForge novels or short stories or whatever they're doing over there. Will the new KeyForge decks be in my language? They're gonna basically first priority is English, like I said earlier. I'm so glad that KeyForge is back. How can I help? Please keep up your enthusiasm for KeyForge as much as possible. Please support our new releases and consider building up a reservoir of forgiveness for us as humans at Ghost Galaxy, as we are sure to make missteps and to make decisions that not all players may like. So they're going to make things like, okay, we're starting OP. We're going to focus on one format, you know, try to keep things simple. And former players who loved a certain play format or something might not be supported right away. So like, I think that's what, if I'm reading between the lines, that's what I'm getting from what they previously said in these articles and what that says. But you can submit your own questions. If you have questions, go to this, again, link in the video description, go submit your questions, and they'll maybe add them to the FAQ, which is cool. Let's go over some more news. There's more news, man. We got more. There's like a whole bunch of articles that posted all this month. They keep the news flowing, which is cool. Burn the computer with fire. That'll fix the problem. Yeah, Mark, I believe, okay, Mark says, wasn't the early stuff printed in Germany and then the latter stuff in China, and the China stuff was kind of washed out? The China stuff was a little less quality. There were decks, I think, printed also in Japan. I believe there was some printing from Japan. Maybe I'm wrong. But there ended up being like stuff printed in North America. There was stuff printed in Germany, China, and I think Japan. I feel like I remember that being a thing. And I remember us fans were always like kind of looking like, where was your deck box printed? You know, you could check that out. And it was, yeah, there were slight variances, obviously. But again, you don't, Like, it doesn't matter because in my mind, I don't care if my deck's a little more washed out, because unlike other card games and board games with expansions and things, you never modify the deck. You never take out cards from one deck and try to put them in another. You know, you never mix that stuff. So if your deck is, at least if your deck's consistent with the rest of the cards in the deck, you're fine. And I sleeved it up anyway, so. But yeah, I could see that being annoying. When you're collecting them and you're like, wait, I'm paying the same price. Why is the quality a little off, you know? What are you guys doing over there? But what I heard was the game was so popular, they were having trouble trying to keep it up with demand in multiple countries. So then they started reaching out to, you know, China and Japan and get things online to be able to handle the algorithmic generated decks. So they had to reach out. Otherwise, if you can't produce new decks for the game, people are going to lose interest, who want to play in sealed tournaments and that kind of stuff and just buy new decks, crack new packs. You know, y'all got any of those KeyForge packs? um Trumpet Gamer, nobody stole the algorithm. It was that encryption virus. I don't know if you've ever seen it before. I actually saw it happen at the business I worked at the time when I was in IT security. I've seen this actually plague a few different businesses and some people I knew, where it would like encrypt your whole computer. That's what happened to them. It supposedly was that encryption virus that was going around, or like ransomware. Yeah, that's what it was. Supposedly, based on rumors. It wasn't somebody hacked in, stole it, and started making their own KeyForge decks. It was just a like random blind, like, you know, they had bad security. They weren't keeping stuff patched. They're probably running like Windows XP on the freaking computer that they were developing KeyForge on. Yeah, that's what happened. So it like encrypted everything, and they didn't have a backup supposedly, or the backup got encrypted also, and no way to unencrypt it. Yeah, at least that's what I heard. And then it made sense because I've seen that one, so it definitely is a thing. Yeah, they probably let go of whoever clicked on the links to start that problem. And probably the whole IT people that were saying everything was secure and we're all good and the backups were working. Whoever didn't check that the backups weren't working probably got canned also, for sure. Oh, Greg says, yep, happened at my work too. Encrypted our domain controller. Oh, wow. Did you have backups of the domain controller, or at least a backup domain controller that didn't get encrypted? Or did you have the whole domain controllers that were like replicated, so the encryption got replicated? Oh, man. That sucks. Oh, man, that sucks. Wow. Okay, let's go to the next news. Gen Con, here we go. Or sorry, to Gen Con we go. So if you never heard of Gen Con, go back to the main page of this YouTube channel. We have a whole stream we just did like a week ago describing what Gen Con is, the history of it, what's happening this year, things we're excited for, how to prepare for Gen Con. But basically, it's just the largest tabletop gaming convention in North America, held in Indianapolis, Indiana. It's coming up next week. I'll probably be there at this point. But so will Ghost Galaxy. And I'm pumped. I am pumped. So the last Gen Con I went to was in 2019. I played in a KeyForge tournament. I filmed the KeyForge tournament. We probably have content from it on the channel. I had a blast. I spent multiple days in the tournament area playing KeyForge, side events, hanging out with people, seeing people I hadn't seen in years. Even people playing that I used to play other card games with, you know, playing with them again. So fun. So fun. So it's so cool. My next Gen Con I go to 3 years later, KeyForge is there again. That's cool. I'm excited, but not 100% there as you think. So Ghost Galaxy will be at Gen Con Indy 2022, August 4th to 7th. Stop by their booth, 1357. Okay, I'm definitely doing it if I'm there. We'll be giving demos of KeyForge, sharing more exciting news about KeyForge, and giving away some cool stuff. Our sister company, gamescenter.com, which is that store in Roseville, Minnesota, basically. I keep saying St. Paul. I think it's in Roseville. I can't remember which one exactly, but it's in that area. Our sister company Game Center will also be selling merchandise at in the same booth, including, so when I see selling merchandise, all that stuff I was discussing about Nightmare packs being reprinted using their Artiforge printer stuff that they bought from Hasmode, the playmats, like this Lord of the Rings playmat I've been looking for and don't want to pay crazy eBay prices for. But you can get some old OP kit stuff that they're reprinting. You can find the Outer Rim official playmat. You can find these Arkham Horror playmats, you know, and there's other Arkham Horror stuff that they print locally there. Where is it? I don't know if we can find it in here. Where is it? Where is it? I know they have like this little custom pack that they print full of the investigators that are included in the were included in the novellas and the parallel investigators. Best selling. Show me. Yes, right here. This Investigators of the Void is one of the things. They also have the parallel investigators and challenge scenarios. They're all sold out, but they have the ability to print these and the rights to print them, supposedly. So when they talk about this one, here's all the investigators that were included for Arkham Horror Living Card Game that were only in those novellas that they don't really print anymore, right? So you can get them all in a pack. It's just shipping from here is silly if you're international. Like I'm in Canada, so I don't buy anything from here because it's like the shipping is more than the product. But if I go down to Gen Con, supposedly Game Center will also be selling merchandise in the same booth, including KeyForge decks, playmats, and card sleeves. So I read between the lines there for those who are watch, you know, our other games on the channel, Lord of the Rings, Arkham Horror LCG, and other content we play here. Yeah, the Game Center will be there. Hopefully they bring some of that kind of rare stuff that they're known for making that you can't get anywhere else. I'm going to try to go there and get it. Go check out booth 1357 if you're looking for that stuff. Oh, sorry. Yogi says it's like 150 shipping to Australia, right? Yeah, it's disgusting. It's disgusting. They need to figure that out. They need a better way to ship or something. I don't know. Because there's people all around the world who want this stuff, but this is the only place to get it. It's so crazy. It's so annoying. And then you see people post on like Reddit and stuff like, oh, look at this cool thing I bought for like $12. And you're like, oh, where do I get it? And it's like, oh, yeah, it's so cheap. I just got it from this website. And it's like, yeah, you're in the US, aren't you? You're like, damn it. Batman says it's Peterson that hacked his own old company. So he bought the printers and after the rights to the game. Yeah. He hacked them just to get the stuff for cheap. Like, I want my baby back. Put your tinfoil hats on. That's what happened. He hired some inside people to penetrate the system. Speaking of demos, we could use the help of some KeyForge savvy people to run demos in our booth. During the exhibit hall hours, 10 to 6, you need to provide your own Gen Con badge, travel arrangements, and sleeping accommodations, but we can compensate you with some awesome product and swag. Yeah, that's kind of lame. Most booths that you volunteer, they'll pay you at least and give you swag. Some will buy your badge, some will put you up in hotels too. But these guys are like, yeah, come and spend 8 hours of the most important convention time, which is when the dealer hall is open, in my opinion, the exhibit hall, when you can go and demo and see things and buy goodies. I'm sure you don't have to do it every day. They'll just take you if you'll even do it for 4 hours or whatever, but they'll only give you some swag. They're not paying you. They're not putting you up. They're not buying your badge. They just come and hang out at the booth, demo the game, and they'll give you some goodies. So that might be interesting to some of you, but that just seems like, from what talking to publishers I have in the past about going to work for them at the convention, it's like, oh, it's always a way juicier offer than that. And it only keeps getting better year after year, it seems. If you're interested in playing full games of KeyForge at Gen Con, our friends at Board Crunch are running sealed deck events Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. So you can play in like little casual tournaments, little events that are running, which are cool. Those are fun. They're not like major tournaments. You don't have to prepare. Just know the rules of the game, and you can go play some casual. There'll be people who are playing for the first time there, I'm sure. There always is. So don't be afraid if you want to try KeyForge to try it this way. I'd probably go to the booth and demo it first to make sure you're good with it. Or you can play online. Like I said, there's some fan-made ways to play KeyForge online. But if you go here, there are $10 sealed events, 16 players maximum, only 3 Swiss rounds. So Swiss rounds for KeyForge are like pretty quick. That's another thing I love about KeyForge. There's no time deck building. You're just playing, and games are usually fast, like fast. You can get through tournaments quicker, play more games. Casual nights, you can jam more games in. And that's what killed Legend of the Five Rings or L5R for me for FFG. The games just were way too long, way too thinky. And tournament scene is I was just like a vegetable by the end of it. And this game, I was able to play multiple games all day long, and I was still pretty good, and still have fun. So it was like definitely a good balance for me, and that's me personally, not for everybody that they like that stuff. But so rules are: you receive 2 decks from a grab bag. Decks are shrink wrapped but not opened. This is to probably make sure you're not bringing your own ringer decks, this is totally acceptable. This is a normal thing at KeyForge tournaments. They started doing so nobody was bringing like super expensive rare decks that would crush everybody. So they kind of like, most tournaments that I played at locally, they would just crack a pack. You know, they'd see everybody cracking a pack in the same area, and then you just walk up and scan them in. But there is still the chance somebody could switch that out and scan in a deck that they've already opened or something. But these ones have already been not opened, not played with. They're just taken out of the cardboard. So you just remove them from the cardboard, and inside they're still shrink wrapped and sealed. But all sets are accounted for. So you can literally, if you're looking for a KeyForge set that's like out of print, you can't find anymore, you might be lucky and get some decks from that set here in a grab bag. So they say they have stuff from all the sets, which is cool. So it's like a Wild West, which is neat. Use one to play in your games. So you get 2 decks for 10 bucks. You're in the tournament with prize support. It only is 3 rounds, which at Gen Con time is valuable. And you just pick one of those 2 decks to play with, and you walk away. That's fun. I want to do this. I just don't know if I can afford the time to do this, but I would love to do it. I think it'd be so fun to just play. I miss at the conventions playing in the side events and the casual little tournaments. And everyone receives a KeyForge button. And if you win 2 games, you receive a custom playmat. And it even talks about decks maybe from any set have been removed from the retail packaging and been scanned but remain in shrink wrapped and unused. These are bulk decks and will provide a level playing field. So they already know none of them are ringers. Maybe they bought some set from like an oil collector or something. We strongly recommend you arrive 10 minutes prior to the start. So you're not going to get like a world tournament winning deck doing this, but I mean, for fun, for $10 to keep you busy for a couple hours, that's pretty good value, I think, and walk away with some stuff. So anyways, you want more information, check it out there. Again, links are in the video description to get to keyforging.com to find all this stuff. Let's go to recent news again. Risen from the depths. What's this? Oh yes, this I got pumped about. All right, this stuff I'm pumped. Okay. Oh, Brand says Christian was there last year with the Game Center booth. Okay, I didn't know. I didn't go to last year's Gen Con. That's cool. They had stacks and stacks of older titles and a few newer FFG games ahead of release. No way. Really? They did not have any of the print-on-demand stuff, however. Oh. At least they didn't when you got to the booth. Were you there in the first 5 minutes of the hall opening on Thursday? Because I guarantee people run to that booth looking for that stuff, and if they only have like 10, somebody will buy it all. Like, people are crazy. People will just buy all of it. Unless they limit it. Brant, you're killing me, man. Thanks for your game recommendations this morning, too, by the way. I appreciate that. I'm sure they'll take you though. If you want to hang out at their booth for 8 hours, Brant, I'm sure they'll still accept you. But obviously doing it for half the day. They probably want like the 4-hour shift kind of stuff. That's what most publishers usually do. Just come every day for 4 hours, or 2 or 3 of the days for 4 hours. Mark says the HQ is for smaller, more intimate product testing and local tournaments for that area. I know eventually they expanded, like you say, to the St. Paul River Center, but that was only recent. I've flown down, I drove down to FFG's HQ even up until 2019 or late 2018. I was there for World Championship tournaments. I know some of the world events for like Star Wars and stuff eventually outgrew the FFG HQ or Event Center or whatever it was called. I think it was Fantasy Flight Games Event Center it was called. But I've been going there since 2013, every year or every couple of years for different events. Like they hold big events there. They expanded into that second room. They would open that big second room. They also had a warehouse space that was around the corner. I remember going to that they had porta potties outside of, and they literally had product on like warehouse shelves sitting beside you. It was like the most like weird place to play games in, but like, man, I remember playing, you know, tournaments for Warhammer and then walking a few blocks to another building and playing in Game of Thrones first edition tournaments, then going to another place to play in Game of Thrones second edition tournaments and side events and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I remember all that. I've never played at the St. Paul River Center. I stopped going there when they started expanding. I even went there when they were also playing in the hotel next door. They used to run events in that hotel while they were running world events at their place and in another building. They were spread out amongst 3 different buildings. Yeah. It was fun times. Oh, Brand says just purchased a whole box of KeyForge decks for 20 last week. Which set did you get for 20 bucks? Can't wait to play Seal with my friends and my wife. Yeah, that's the best way to play KeyForge. Best way to play. I told you, man, I'm still holding unopened decks. I can play a 5-player sealed. Actually, I can play a few more. Like I said, I'm still holding sealed starter sets, 1 for each set. So I have 2 decks for each other set in here. So we can do like a little Wild West mini tournament at my house. No problem. I'm just waiting for the game to relaunch again before I get all excited about it again. I told myself I'm not opening any of that stuff until the game comes back. So I'm still waiting, even though they showed all these articles. Not guaranteed. Oh, you were there. You were at the booth on Wednesday. Oh, damn. Okay. Damn it. Yeah, I hope it's bigger and better though. I hope they realize like fans really love that print-on-demand product that you can only get there, and bring some of that to Gen Con. That's a cool idea, Mark. Mark says you should crack some decks and let people see the deck list and let us vote which one we think will win. We used to do stuff like that on the channel. I remember cracking decks and like trying to figure out, we look through the decks. I don't think we'd always like look through them right away. I remember sometimes we'd just crack a deck and, you know, Mel or I would pick one and then we just play against each other, see what happens. And then we kind of like analyze after like what the deck was trying to do and stuff. Yeah, a lot of that was on Twitch though. It didn't make it to YouTube. We weren't always streaming. We were streaming KeyForge on Twitch, but like I'd put tournament videos on YouTube. Yeah, that's why I was trying to like grow both channels. But yeah, I just gave up now. I only do YouTube. Twitch and tabletop gaming is like, it doesn't really mix. It's a rare thing for those 2 things to work together. I've learned from the fan and the creator point of view. All right, so the news here. So this one I'm super excited about. Okay, I delayed enough there. This I'm pumped. Okay, if you've been paying attention to the channel, there was this. We talked about these KeyForge Adventure packs. Okay, Fantasy Flight Games, when COVID hit, they wanted to help keep KeyForge alive and support the game even when you couldn't get out of your house and go to tournaments. So they quickly whipped together some a way to play KeyForge solo and co-op. And people love when you take competitive card games and turn them solo and co-op, because then you can like kind of test decks single player, and you can play with more casual people, and more people will buy your product because now you're not only targeting the competitive audience, you're also targeting the casual audience, which is amazing. Like you're just going to sell more product. Like why not, right? And people will have more reasons to use their cards. So while thousands of people all over the world enjoy the competitive head-to-head nature of KeyForge, there are times when many would rather play as a team, play with the family, or perhaps flex a deck's muscles in a different game environment. Enter KeyForge Adventures. So a KeyForge product range that will live side by side with regular KeyForge projects and use your regular KeyForge decks. KeyForge Adventures was first introduced by former publisher FFG during the 2020 and 2021 pandemic as print and play adventures. So these were print and play products only. I didn't want to print them on crappy paper in black and white at my home. I don't have a color printer. I have to go to a store to have them print it. It's not cheap to print color stuff, and there was a whole bunch of pages you had to print. And then I would have to cut them all out, put them in sleeves as proxies. I used to do that when I play tested for FFG, and I hate that process. It's so tedious, so annoying. So you can go online and submit these files to printers, and they'll print them on better quality cardstock and cards and stuff and package them for you and everything. But in Canada, it's not cheap, and it usually ships from the US or something. So I got to pay extra fees on it. And it's not always the best quality, and it costs like a lot. Like it's like $50+ I saw for some of the things I've printed in the past. It's not worth it for like a little pack of cards, in my opinion. The first two adventures, Rise of the Kraken and the Abyssal Conspiracy, were welcomed by fans who not only gathered together to overcome these challenges with their families, but also engage in many solo games. Again, if they had the digital game ready, they could have had tournaments happening online from people's homes. They could have had this released in the app. They could have had people playing solo and co-op without having to leave their homes. This is why I said right from the beginning, why is there no digital app for KeyForge? And man, when COVID hit, I was just shaking my head. I was like, these idiots. Today, we're proud to announce the upcoming commercial release. So this is amazing for me. I love this. I always thought, like, why didn't FFG just sell these damn things online? So like a casual player is not going to go get print on demand files and figure out how to make these cards in proxies or print them on some website. Casual players just give them the packs as easy as they buy KeyForge packs, right? Just make them online, send them to local game stores. I was so blown away that that was FFG's solution, was quick, put up some print and play stuff. Only the most hardcore are going to do that, right? But co-op and solo are great for the casual, right? So Ghost Galaxy's figured that out. They're going to print these as official products, packaged, good quality cards, you know, and get this, look at this, includes an all new Nightmare cards to even make it even stronger. So if you find it too easy, you can throw in Nightmare cards, just like with Lord of the Rings LCG scenarios and Arkham Horror scenarios, to make them harder as the card pool grows and decks become OP and stuff like that. You can still play these in the future and make them harder and stuff to really test your best decks. So in addition to the cards you may have experienced while engaging in the print and play edition, we have developed a set of Nightmare cards for each adventure, making for very challenging games against which to measure your strongest decks. The two adventures will ship to retailers English language only at this time in fall 2022, but we have managed to produce a limited supply of a Gen Con special edition of the two decks that we'll have available at the Ghost Galaxy booth. Visit us if you can. This might be my most excited thing at Gen Con after looking through the whole list yesterday of things coming there. This wasn't even on that list. I wish it was on that list. Ghost Galaxy needs to reach out to BoardGameGeek.com and get this stuff and the KeyForge stuff they're bringing, whatever it is, old stuff, new stuff, whatever. They need to get that in the BoardGameGeek.com game list, of preview list for Gen Con. But I'm excited to grab these. I always wanted to print them out. I always wanted to play them on the channel with you guys and have a reason to play KeyForge again. But I just didn't want to pay the crazy amounts and play with crappy quality custom printed versions. So I am so pumped. And I know some of you are like, Rob, I already played this. This is so boring. Like, they need to make new ones. I don't care. I haven't played it yet. This is new to me. I'm super excited. I can play on stream with you guys, solo, co-op with Mel. We can have some fun trying out decks on stream. I am pumped. And they're going to keep releasing new stuff for this as a line that goes adjacent to the decks being printed in the competitive scene and stuff. So yes, please. Yes, please. So you can go read about these products, go to the product page. But yeah, these will be available at your local game store in the fall. But I'll have a better version if I go to Gen Con, which is the Gen Con Special Edition, which I'll rub in your face every chance I get. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. If I don't get it, I'll just try to buy it later in the year. But I'm just pumped that these are happening. I'm pumped that I can buy official card quality products that I don't need to go through the process of trying to print custom crap. And it will look like crap. However I do it. I remember playing with play-tested cards and stuff. It was just not fun. But yeah, if you can't wait and you want to do print-on-demand stuff, I think they took it down from FFG's website now that Ghost Galaxy bought it. But there's some fan ways that you can probably find it. Go in the Facebook group and the Reddit group. They probably have like Google Drive links and stuff that have the files there. So somebody has it. If you want to just go print it out and you didn't know about these and you want to just play some KeyForge, you know, solo at home or co-op with your family, you can do it. I'm excited. I wanted to play these. I thought it was such a cool idea, but I was just bummed when I found it was like that. So I'm more pumped for Gen Con after reading that for sure. Because like KeyForge was like the driving reason I went to Gen Con 2019. Like that was like the solo reason. I'd say probably 70% of the reason. The other reason was to try to meet some publishers, build up some relationships before I jumped into doing YouTube full time, you know, which was awesome. But yeah, I went there to play in the tournaments, film videos, meet players, you know, get some prizes, have some fun, test some decks, get some new stuff. Are you diligent and adventurous? So this is the last one. It says Ghost Galaxy, the publisher of KeyForge, is looking to recruit a talented individual for the role of marketing coordinator at our offices in Roseville, Minnesota. If you're interested, then point your amber binoculars towards our new employment opportunities page. May your keys always turn. Shouldn't it say may your keys always forge? Like, do they mean your car engine turnover? I don't know. I know you turn, you flip your keys, but so they only have a job for marketing coordinator, but pay attention. They're looking for game developers eventually, as I said, throughout the later part of the year, but they probably already have a few in mind, so they're probably waiting to see if they can grab some of them when contracts get up. But yeah, keep an eye on here if you want to go work for the new version of FFG, I guess. You know, work on KeyForge and other games. But supposedly they had other games already in development that they put on hold now while they work on KeyForge, so who knows, right? Very cool future coming, I think. This is all good news, I feel. I want to hear from you guys. What do you guys think about all of this stuff we talked about today? And again, if you're looking for these articles, want to dig deeper, the links are in the video description to the new KeyForge webpage, keyforging.com, which you can read all about the game. You can read about, there's a preview in here that I didn't talk about, that talks about the Winds of Exchange, right? That's what the set's called. Yeah, Winds of Exchange. They talk about some new cards in here, some new mechanics, token cards. Okay, so that's here. I don't care about going through this today. I don't really care about this because I'm still not 100% that I'm going to actually see this set released. Because who knows, maybe these guys sell it to another company or something. Like, I've been waiting for this game to come back, and it seems to be taking longer than expected because of the change of ownership. But they have cards ready. They're showing off cards. Like, hey guys, like we got stuff here. Like, hopefully they get it out the door. But I'll believe it when I see it. I'll believe it when I see it. And what else? What else? But yeah, they have a shop here. What's the shop? Oh, it's just links to the Game Center. So you can supposedly buy some stuff from them. So this is what they might have at Gen Con then, right? It looks like they probably will be bringing Worlds Collide decks for sale. Age of Ascension. And yeah, that's probably it. That's probably all they'll have at Gen Con for sets, but because the rest of it looks like it's sold out. But unfortunately, unless they have some stock they've been hiding for a while. But yeah. Cool. All right. What are you guys saying? What are you thinking? Are you pumped about any of this? Are you going to Gen Con? Are you excited for these adventure sets to buy later in the year? Are you excited the game's coming back? Do you think it's going to flop? Like, do you think it's too late? Do you think the momentum's dead? Do you think this company, do you think Ghost Galaxy will be able to handle organized play and even bring it even near to what it used to be? or do it better? Do you think they'll actually do a digital app, or do you think the game won't be successful enough? We won't even see an app. I'll give you my thoughts on all that, but I'm curious what you guys think. Circato says, okay, I'm excited for Adventures. Yeah, you just jumped on my hype train. I see how I convinced you to be excited for it. Yeah, don't be fooled. It might not be for you, but yeah, I'm excited for it personally. And I know it can be contagious. But yeah, you can play with all your old decks, Circato, that you pulled out of your closet. You can play with them without even going to a tournament. Which I think is so fun. May they Mark says, may they flip and stay. Dang Keyhammer. Yes. Unforge a key and give them the amber back. Oh. And then steal it all. Mark says, I think I'm set on Saurion. If that's how you say that, there's the dinosaur faction, right? I don't know how to pronounce it. I forget. Saurion. Excited for the new faction they teased. Yeah, they have a new faction coming. It's actually in here. It's actually in here. One sec. It's in here, I think. So if you just go to the main page and click the game, or I think that's maybe the main page that launches. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. Okay. If you click on the game and scroll down, they describe the game. And I think down here they talk about the factions. Yeah, so here's the factions. This is the new one, right? The Equidon, the merchant compacts of Equidon are the vast network of traders obsessed with making deals and new investments across the Crucible. They are masters of subtly gaining the upper hand in any situation. Who are they? Do you know who they're replacing in the new set? Because usually when they show a new house, they cycle out a house. Are they cycling out shadows? Like, I haven't even played with any, like, Unfathomable I've never played with. I think I tried a couple decks with the Star Alliance in it. I think I've dabbled with. I don't think I even played the Saurion Republic. I don't think the couple decks I got early that I played with before that set, I don't think I had that in them. But yeah, my memories are only about the first two sets of KeyForge. Because after that I stepped out, right? And I played a little bit, but yeah, I didn't really buy a bunch of decks or open a bunch of decks or play in any tournaments. So I have no bond with those new factions. I still have yet to even like dabble with them. So there's still a whole bunch for me to discover in the game before they actually get it reprinted. I just need those adventure packs to have an excuse to start playing the game again. I know I could play it against Mel, no problem. And my daughter, I used to play it against my daughter without even finding players outside of my home. But I want to play with those adventure packs. I think that's so cool. That's just me, though. That's just me. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of players, Billy, that didn't even know the adventure sets were a thing. I guarantee you, because some people just go to their local game store and that's their channel into game information. They don't check FFG's website every day. You know what I mean? So some people went through COVID and just put gaming, you know, competitive card games in the closet and just played local board games in their house and stuff. And they had no idea that FFG's pumping out print on demand stuff to try to keep the game alive. Mark says people will come back to it and hopefully it will bring new people too. I hope so too. I hope so too. But I know there was a huge fan base, like even locally, we had fans. There's a huge online community for it. I think I was looking in the KeyForge subreddit. Still has like 17 or 18,000 people in it that still are in there chatting and sharing custom content and talking about decks are cracking and buying decks on sale and playing with local scenes. There's still local stores that still have weekly meetups that have not died through COVID, have not died through no new cards. They still have old product. They still sell product. People still play. It's still a thing. Still a thing. Yogi says, whole game will probably be a flop, but yes, still excited. I think it will only flop if they don't get OP up and running with a huge priority and the digital app with a huge priority. I wish they just kind of went dark and kind of even kept the new set designed with the app and the organized play program and did them all in parallel, and then at the same time launched it all. But that is a huge risk for a company to invest in all three of those lanes, and then they release it and it just flops, right? They want to kind of like test the waters first with just released product. Do people buy it? And then if people are buying it and if stores are stocking it, then do they start doing like small tournaments at stores? And then they got to test out their software for like the decks and the tournaments and the organized play software. And then they got to decide if they want to make an app. So there's like, I see how they're going to do it. They're going to do it more linear instead of parallel, which is unfortunate. But in today's day and age, if you don't come out with something exciting and keep people talking, yeah, people just forget really quick. So hopefully they don't screw it up. Rodden says, never played KeyForge, but might if solo or co-op is a viable option. KeyForge is great if you have a player to even play casually with. If you have another friend or even a family member just to play classic KeyForge with. The game is not that complicated. It's very easy to get into. You just buy 2 decks or a starter set, and you have the tokens and the keys to play with. You just buy 1 starter box, and you can try it with another player. But if you don't have another player to play with, yes, obviously solo and co-op is the only option, which is cool that it's going to be an option officially, which is neat. But yeah, it is a great casual little game. It's like, you know, I'm the kind of player that will buy like Pokemon, Magic, Flesh and Blood starter decks, just play that casually because I don't want to go chase cards. I don't want to dive deep in there, and I just play casually, low powered cards, starter decks. I love doing that, and I don't go too deep into it, but that's what KeyForge is. That's the whole only way to play the game is buy decks, crack them open, they're already built, and you can play them against any deck in any set and any time, which is neat. So it's like, it's that idea of starter decks. You know, you buy those Magic starter decks that are like balanced against each other, or a couple Pokemon starter decks, you know, play with your kid. It's like that, but it's like that's the only way to play it. So everyone plays it that way, which is really cool. Successful Geek says, was there ever decks made that are just garbage? Yeah, they all function, but there's some that were just lower power levels. But the cool part, and then it says, that is the thing that scared me from KeyForge because it's all sealed. If you get a deck that's just trash, how does that feel? But here's the thing. In a sealed event, yes, in a sealed event of 600 players, yeah, there will be a bunch of players that have really good decks, but the pilot is a huge thing with the game. Piloting the deck is huge, and it's still a card game drawing from a deck. So even if you have a really OP deck, sometimes you just don't draw into what you need, or you maybe make some poor decisions on which house to activate and that kind of thing. And it depends what you're playing against. So certain factions and certain deck builds will counter each other. So even if you have like the best deck in the tournament, you may run into a deck that is not that powerful that actually counters you pretty hard. And it was pretty cool. There were some decks that just that were harder to play. And there were some decks that just were like not that great compared to like the meta. But again, if you go to a sealed tournament, which I played in like, I don't even know, 50, 60 something sealed tournaments, I would go to events for a whole weekend, stay in a hotel and play like multiple sealed events in the same day. Like I loved playing sealed in that game. So amazing. All different formats. It was nuts. And yeah, even if you opened kind of like a crappy sealed deck, yeah, you'd have struggle to win, especially if you got paired up against a player who just had a better deck. But it was also part of the skill was also knowing the decks and figuring them out and knowing the card pool and knowing like how to pilot. So yes, if you were a sucky pilot and you got a sucky deck, yeah, you're screwed. But there are some good players that could take a not so great deck and still roll you because they just have good game knowledge and awareness and skill, right? And there's that luck involved, right? You're drawing from decks. There's always luck in a card game, right? But yeah, you could open a kind of a deck that just kind of sucks in your first 3 rounds of a tournament. You're like, oh, damn, you got shadows. You're stealing all my amber. I have no counter for that. Okay, next. You know, oh, I drew a crappy startup. You know, I didn't get the best cards. It would happen. I'm sure as the sets released, maybe they figured that out a bit better. But in the early sets, yeah, that definitely happened. But yeah, someone else might know in the chat who kept playing longer than I did. I only played through the first 2 sets. So, but I did play in a lot of tournaments, sealed, not sealed, you know, like bring your own decks, not bring your own decks, all that kind of stuff. Drafting. Or not drafting. Is it drafting? How do they do that? They did like, I think they did one tournament at my local store where they like opened a bunch of decks and just put them on the table, and all you could see was the factions and the backs of them and the names or whatever. And they let like we did like random draw, and then people got to pick their decks. So you might pick a deck thinking it has the houses in it that you like or you think are more powerful, but then you don't know what cards are in it from that faction and how they mesh with the rest of the deck, because you're always getting 3 factions decks mixed in, right? So even though you're like, okay, let's say Sanctum and Shadows were like both great houses that had generally good cards, but they all houses had cards that were like kind of crappy, and some of those crappy cards worked amazing with cards in other houses, so they would be great. And it was just cool to see how the app kind of put those together. So it was still fun. Like, it was still fun. Of course, there's a little bit of luck involved in a tournament. You get a better deck than someone else. But again, if you can't pilot the deck, you can't handle playing in a tournament, like, you could still lose. There's some fun tournaments. You can go watch some like world tournaments or high level tournaments with hundreds of players online. You can probably still find the footage where players bring these best decks that are known in the world to be the best decks, and no one's going to beat them. And then you just see like somebody with a deck that's a way lower power level according to the meta and what people think, that comes in and just crushes everybody. But it's the same in any card games like that, right? If you just kind of bring the right deck or have the right tool set, sometimes you can throw off the balance and surprise people. But yeah, in sealed, it's fun. It's just like Wild West, a good time. But yeah, that could happen. You could get a bad deck. Yeah, Mark. Yeah, they need to get cash flow going with release. They already have ready, then gauge ROI for future bats. Exactly. I know it's a smart way to do it, but like, it has some risk to it too. Oh, that's the other thing. Yes, Mark, I forgot about the chain system. I totally forgot about that. So they also had a system where decks were chained. So if they were OP, they started with less cards in hand. Yeah, so because the decks were tracked and the tournament software tracked wins and losses and earning amber and keys and stuff for prize support, it would also eventually, if a deck kept winning, depending on the level of the tournament and stuff like that, it would start earning chains on it. So they had a cool control system. So if I got a deck and I won a couple local tournaments, that's fine, no big deal. I then go to play a Gen Con with 700 players and I win the whole tournament, or I place really high, I'm going to get a whole bunch of chains on the deck. So when I come back to my local casual weekly tournaments with, the 10 players that show up and some new players, I can't bring that deck into the tournament because the deck has a chain limit. Also was a thing, I think, right? Where you would not be allowed to bring tournaments or decks even into the tournament that would have a certain amount of chains on them. But the chain rule also meant you start with less cards in hand, so it would try to like nerf the deck, which was really neat. So it kind of kept cycling. So it was kind of like a way to be like a rolling restricted list, kind of, right? So if people kept showing up with these same couple decks and crushing the local meta, those decks would eventually not be allowed to play in the local meta, or would just be nerfed so hard in your local meta. Yeah, the app tracked your chains, and it was like the power level, right? Ah, okay. Yeah, the chain system was cool. Because I had some decks that got chains on them, and I remember just being like, okay, I'll just put that deck away and I'll bring it to a future like major event. Because the major events, it was no worry. Like, you ought to bring your best decks. It didn't care how many chains you had on it, which was cool. So like, everyone bring their best. But it stopped people from local tournaments crushing the new players, crushing the scene, crushing people that didn't have a big budget to buy secondary market decks or get lucky opening a good deck. It was definitely a cool idea, a cool way to kind of control that. I forgot all about that. But I remember when I had decks that got chains on them, I was like, okay, I'll just put that in the box and maybe bring that to Gen Con and in a future year, an Origins tournament, or to FFG's Game Center to play in a tournament or something. Or take it to a hotel in Toronto or something where they would like run big events, It was fun. My deck, Alp Strateroid Hearth. Can we look this up still? It's been years since I looked up some KeyForge decks. Let's do this. If that's spelt right. If that's spelt right. Let's see if we can do it. So we're in the Master Vault. Explore decks. Input deck name. Search. Oh. No. Maybe it's spelled a little different. Just try Alp. Okay, okay. That's what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing. That's funny. How do we? Hey, can we do like some letters? Maybe. Let's see. Because that filters it down to over 7,000 decks. Oh, hold on. This one, we found it, right? Whoa! Power level 2, 12 chains, wins 12, 3 losses, total 15. Yeah, that's so cool. Yeah, the power level thing, right? There's certain tournaments you couldn't bring a deck. You could only bring a deck of up to a certain power level. Man, this is bringing me real back. Wow. Well, of course, it's a bait and switch deck. And oh man, these were my 3 favorite factions in the first set. Yes, I loved Dis, Shadows, and Untamed together. That was like my favorite combo. My favorite combo. Gateway to Dis. Oh man. It reminded me of Valor in Game of Thrones, the card game, just blowing up the board. You know, the boards would get big, kill everyone. Board would get big, kill everyone. Oh, I loved it. Oh, I loved it. So how much are you selling this deck for, did you say? Just kidding, just kidding. Double gateway and bait and switch, you bugger. Wow. Oh, and a regrowth. Regrowth was really powerful, right? Return a creature from your discard pile to your hand. Dew fairies with all the amber on them. No. Oh, I'm thinking of something else. What am I? Oh, dust pixie I'm thinking of. Yeah, dust pixies. Oh, man. Did you have the one that had like the 3 or 4 amber on it too? I don't remember that was, but man, full moon. You bugger. This, I could tell already. I remember a bunch of these cards now. It's all coming back. Oh, man. So another thing you can do in KeyForge, so there's like a fan-made website. Hold on. You could go check out, what was it called? Like the SAS score or something? I think. Decks of KeyForge, is that right? Yes. Okay. So some crazy guys made some website where you could like kind of track the power of decks, and they would kind of give cards a rating and combos a rating and stuff. And as each new set out, it would take a couple weeks or months to see, but they would constantly change the scale, and you kind of could rank your decks. So let's search. Yeah, we can search this deck up. And you can see its SAS score. So look at how high it is in that top left chart here. Maybe I can zoom in. Yeah, the community for this game was insane. So when you sell a deck, you would sell the deck with your SAS score tied to it, and that would kind of help with the value on the secondary market of your deck. And then when a decks would win tournaments, they would input that tournament data, I think, and that would skew how the SAS score worked and stuff. So when new things were learned to be powerful in the meta, it would kind of change the rankings of the deck. So this one has 64 base arc, plus 15 for synergy, has a little bit of anti-synergy in the deck, and has some meta for the board clear. Cool. But you can see the cards, and then the win rate of cards and stuff. Like, this stuff's insane. The data in here, like, if you love, like, buy a deck, scan it in here, and analyze the data is so cool. And then you can put your whole collection in here and rank it and stuff. So fun. So you can like browse, we can browse decks too. So yeah, you obviously have a great deck. 79 SAS score is in like, what is this? You're in the top 10% of all decks in the world, according to SAS score, that have been imported into the website and scanned, right? If people buy KeyForge decks and never scan them into the KeyForge website, the data is never pulled into this website either. So you can like import your decks. But we can go to like the worldwide decks. We can say, let's go to mass mutation, for example. You can filter. Let's do search. And a 108 SAS score is like the highest for a mass mutation deck, for example. 106. So whoever owns this deck with a Chinese name of some kind. Whoops, I need to take that word away. Sorry guys, I had that blocking. I don't know what Ranky is. Oh, that was the app on Android, right? I used to do that at tournaments, use Ranky. When I was at a tournament, I would input my decks into Ranky. I remember, just to keep track of like a small collection of decks that I opened at the tournament, to like just so I could look at them quick and stuff between rounds and things. Forgot about Ranky. Yeah, sorry, I cut that ribbon popped up. My bad. So yeah, so this deck, for example, boom. Like this person's got like 69 base arc, plus 39 for synergy. So you could check like how much board control it has, how fast the deck is, how much amber it has, control, what is this? Expected amber generation. Yeah, just card types, things. I like, it's crazy. People can like it, and I don't know, mark decks is funny, I guess, based on their name and stuff. Yeah, it's crazy. This stuff's all blows my mind that some people came up with this stuff. I think it's so fun. Oh, they run tournaments online, I guess. Yeah, that's cool, man. Game definitely had some good support. Great fan base, great community. Good times, good times. Mark, I'm jelly of your deck, though. Good times. I think I had some Call the Archons decks that were in that 70, 79, 80 range. I have a couple decks that were in that range too. So basically what we have to do is bring those two decks. I'll bring my top deck, you bring your top deck. We need to meet somewhere and find out who's the better. Who's the better? I wonder if I log into this website, if it still works. No, I don't have my password saved on this browser, so I can't, but oh, maybe I can do it on a different browser. One sec. Oh, it saved my password. Hold on. I'm logging in. My decks. Yeah, I have a 79 SAS deck. Supposedly. 78, I have a 77. Okay, one sec. I can copy the deck names over. Let's do this. So supposedly, based on decks that I scanned into this website, which probably wasn't all my decks, this is my best one, which is from, how do you tell the set? How do I tell the set? Oh, Call the Archons. So it's a Dis Sanctum Shadows deck called Darkens of the Kiss Block Front. So your deck will crush this deck, though. I would assume. Oh, it's a Fagin deck. Okay. Oh, but anyways. Oh, is it Ember Imp? Yeah. Your opponent cannot play more than 2 cards each turn. I love the control in Dis. Oh my god, it's so fun. I miss this game. Double Charette, yeah. I forget, man. This is so good. Oh man, I'm running down the nostalgia trip right here. It's good stuff. Yeah. Oh man. So yeah, KeyForge coming back supposedly. That's the news. That's the update. July 2022. We're in the end of July 2022 here. Hopefully they have stuff to announce at Gen Con, it seems, based on their news. They'll have some surprises there. If I go, I'm going to try to get to their booth, check it out. I'll try to get some footage, try to grab those adventure packs, bring them back, cover them on the channel if I can. If somebody else doesn't beat me to their booth and buy them all up. But yeah, save some for me if you can, please. Please, please, please. Anyone from Ghost, anyone who's volunteering for them, please tell them to hold like 2 decks for me. I'm going to email them before if I do go, just to ask if they can hold a couple for me, and I'll advertise them on YouTube, you know, play them for you guys. But yeah, I'll see. I just know sometimes the mad dash to the booths, you can miss out on stuff, because you're not allowed to run. And sometimes you can't get close to the front of the line, so we'll see. Oh, Sukato says we got to check out a deck. Okay, let's try. Let's try. Again, the website's Decks of KeyForge. Decks of KeyForge. I didn't link that one down below, but I should. But one sec. It's not really what the video was about today, but now I'm like going down the path. It's a 69 SAS. So not that amazing, but you have freaking 3 urchins and a bait and switch going on in there. It's a pretty good shadows lineup, it looks like, but I don't remember exactly. But Untamed was pretty good in the first set, and Sanctum, you have the solid horseman lineup in there. But those aren't like really the best Sanctum cards, but I remember there's some better Sanctum stuff. What was the good like Sanctum cards? I don't remember, but I don't think it was these ones. But there was like better amber generating Sanctum lineups. But anyways, it's got a good synergy, has a little bit of anti-synergy, but not a lot. It's in the better than 75% of the decks that exist according to this website. But again, if you play locally and nobody owns a deck that's like better than this or can pilot a deck, you know, you may have the best deck in your meta at the time, you know, and all their decks were like lower, or they just didn't know how to pilot them properly, or your deck had the answer to their favorite decks. So you were just crushing them because they weren't bringing the proper decks to deal with your stuff. So that happens in all competitive games, board games, card games, anything. That's like how the meta works, right? So like somebody will figure out what you're doing and then bring their own deck that counters it, but then they might not get paired up against you and they might not win. And yeah, it's just fun. It's fun. Yeah, I can tell it's from the first cycle, because you just hover over this thing and it says Call the Archons right here, the little symbol. But yeah, Decks of KeyForge. Check it out. Put in your decks, have some fun. Create an account, log in, you know, all that kind of stuff. I think you can import your stuff from the FFG website, or the Asmodee website. I'm going to link this down in the video description. Decks of KeyForge. Yeah, so people are watching this later, or if you refresh the window, whoops. If you refresh the window in a second, why won't it? Hold on. All right, I put it in the video description, the link to Decks of KeyForge if you're curious. But yeah, also join like the Facebook groups. There's probably a local KeyForge Facebook group if you live near a major city and stuff. They always have like little local groups. There's subreddits and probably a Discord, and yeah, just look around the internet. You'll find other people still playing KeyForge, still fans of KeyForge, still hoping the game comes back, still playing the game, still buying decks. It's still a thing. It's just not as successful and as large as it used to be. But COVID, and damn virus. But yeah, it was mainly COVID that crushed the interest. So even if FFG printed the new set and didn't have the that ransomware crush them, I still think popularity in each set as it comes out would just get crushed by not being able to play at tournaments and not go hang out with your friends in a board game store during COVID lockdowns and stuff, right? I really think COVID is like the real killer to the game, but Nepotent Seed and Lost in the Woods, yes. Oh man, that's so cool. Anyways, that's going to be it for me today. I just wanted to cover the news for KeyForge, reminisce about the game, discuss the future with you guys, kind of let you guys know what's going on with it. Maybe some of you just didn't know about any of this stuff, so hopefully it makes people more aware. But I do plan on playing some KeyForge in some way or another. At minimum, getting these adventure decks to play casually on the channel. And also cracking open some sealed stuff to play casually on the channel, at minimum. I can promise that at least, because I have that stuff. Hopefully I'll get these adventure packs. Worst case, I'll get them out of the store later in the year. But that's what's coming up with KeyForge. I'll try to pay attention to the news if some more stuff comes out, or if I get to Gen Con, I'll maybe make a follow-up video after Gen Con if anything cool was there. Maybe I'll make a quick little booth tour or something. We'll see. Maybe I can unbox those adventure things for you guys or something. But yeah, if you're looking for KeyForge coverage, I'm going to try to, from a casual perspective for now, cover it. Not tournament videos and playing and, you know, filming finales and or cuts and, you know, that kind of stuff. I'll keep it casual for now. That's all I can promise. So if you like the casual side of KeyForge, we'll do that for sure. But getting further into it, I don't know what the future holds because I have no idea what organized play is going to look like. But I hope that one day I can get to my local store every week or two, play with some players, have some casual fun, crack some decks, play some sealed tournaments, and maybe eventually get to a convention and play in some larger tournaments. We'll see. But I can only hope. Or even play digitally online, casually in some tournaments, earn some prizes. I mean, that would be so fun. That's the future I want to see, but I don't know if we'll get there. So yeah. Anyways, thank you for watching. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you in the next stream. Bye-bye.